Well, I guess you guys really missed me doing Switch videos. The list of first-party Nintendo games coming out this year is currently pretty empty. We know about Super Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury, which looks absolutely amazing after the recent trailer we just got, and then Pokemon Snap also finally got a release date for April. But that is basically it. Everything else is currently one giant question mark, primarily because it looks like Nintendo is playing a lot of stuff close to the chest, wanting to keep it a little more of a secret until they know for sure when games are going to be ready to be released. So with that in mind, I wanted to just go ahead and make a little bit of a wish list, talking about a bunch of games that I would love to see either come back this year or games that are still currently active, but just enough time has passed where we might see a new entry happen. I'm gonna be real honest, there's a few of these here that I think are actually pretty likely to happen, and a couple that I'm just gonna keep on hoping for. I am also planning on making a video talking about games I would love to see ported to the Switch this year, so if you want to see that list, make sure you're subscribed. And why not start it off with something I'm hoping to see with WarioWare.
Place the form baton in your palm, tip forward, and buttons facing up.
Now, when I talk about WarioWare on the Switch, there's one very specific game I'm really channeling mentally here, and it's WarioWare Smooth Moves for the Wii. There's been a bunch of different WarioWare games, all focused on very fast-paced, short, hectic minigames, and none of their titles have ever been as fun as Smooth Moves. If you never played it, the main idea here is that all of the minigames and Smooth Moves were focused on making use of the Wii's Wiimote in order to make people do all kinds of dumb, hilarious stuff, like putting it to their nose and acting like an elephant, holding it in their hand as though they were a waiter, and really, honestly, more than anything, I just want an excuse to have these tutorial videos come back because they are works of art.
The elephant. Point the form baton forward, with the end lightly touching your nose. Just as the mighty elephant uses its trunk to gorge on peanuts, so too will your new nose sustain you.
The last full WarioWare game we got was back in 2018 on the 3DS, and the game before that one was a longer gap of 5 years, but before that one, usually there was only about a 2 to 3 year wait between them. So I think if this is a series they're invested in maybe bringing back and focusing on a little bit again, we could see a release this year. I just think the Switch would be the perfect time to bring back the specific style that Smooth Moves had. Because I missed that game. And I would love it in HD. Really, just port that to Switch. Even that I'd be happy with. Next up, let's talk about Next Level Games real quick. This is a developer that made news rounds a couple weeks ago because they had been bought out by Nintendo. Now, they had worked with Nintendo before as a second-party company, meaning that they weren't directly owned by Nintendo, but worked on a lot of first-party Nintendo franchises. Now, the more recently known games they're really focused on are Luigi's Mansion, having made both 3 and Dark Moon on the 3DS, but there's a couple other franchises they worked on in the past that I would love to see come back, and the number one I would absolutely love to see is Mario Strikers. Mario sports games are handled by a couple different developers, but Strikers is one that was uniquely worked on by Next Level Games specifically. Only 2 of them were released, one on the GameCube and another one on the Wii, and we have not seen it since 2011. It is going to be 10 years this year, and to be honest, I've never really been a huge fan of most Mario sports titles. They're fun, they're enjoyable, I can have a little fun with them, but Strikers in particular is one that for whatever reason really resonated with me. The single-player aspect of it was a little bit wanting, but the multiplayer aspects of the game were really easy to pick up, and it was very simple to introduce someone else to the game and jump into some multiplayer matches that were absolute insanity and so much fun. And now that Next Level Games is officially a first-party Nintendo developer, I would love for one of their next games to be something that brings back that old title. They also did work on the later Punch-Out games on the Wii. I'd be kind of down with that too, but Strikers is definitely the main title I would love to see come back, aside from maybe some more Luigi's Mansion stuff. All right, let's talk about a more active series, one that I actually am a little skeptical about seeing one this year, but the timing does work out that one might happen, and I would love to see it. A brand new Fire Emblem. Now, the reason why it's a little bit weird right now is because Fire Emblem for the last couple releases has been roughly a 2-year turnaround, but that is with titles in between that are maybe less ambitious. In particular, before Three Houses in 2019, in 2017 we got a remake of Fire Emblem 2, which was fantastic, but not quite the same kind of thing. The reason why I'm not sure we might see one this year is because, well, first off, 2020 was a big old mess, and so there might be some games that were in development that maybe aren't coming out as soon as they were originally planned to, but on top of that, we have have had a lot of other Fire Emblem related things happen. Three Houses, after all, did have DLC release as recently as last year, and we did finally get an official English translation of the original Fire Emblem released digitally. If you assume the logic of alternating every 2 years between a new game and a remake, there is the possibility that this year could be the release of a remake of Fire Emblem 4, which is a very big cult favorite. It's known to be one of the more difficult Fire Emblem games, and maybe that getting a little bit of an updated treatment could be a really interesting title to see, especially because that is the title that originated the whole having kids mechanic, which was so big in Awakening and Fates. As a real quick add-on to this, something else that I think would be cool, but I don't necessarily think is going to happen this year, Fire Emblem Warriors 2. We already got 2 different Hyrule Warriors games recently, and I think if Fire Emblem got the same kind of treatment, that could be really interesting, where you had Fire Emblem Warriors, which was the kind of big crossover game, and then you get a sequel that, like with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, is a more focused title, bringing to life the Switch entry, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Given the fact that Age of Calamity just came out, and Persona 5 Strikers is getting localized in the US this year, I don't think we're going to actually see it in 21, but that's on my list of things I want to see have happen. Now, for a series that we are very more than likely going to get something for this year, Pokemon. Pokemon is basically a yearly launch as far as Nintendo is concerned. 2020 was a little bit of an exception to that because instead of getting something like Pokemon Sword and Shield 2 or Pokemon Gun version, we instead just got the expansion packs for Sword and Shield, which kind of fulfilled that same thing. With that in mind, the time is right is for another either mainline Pokemon game or something very close that is a spin-off. And while we are getting Pokemon Snap this year, that doesn't quite cover what I'm talking about here. What I think is most likely is one of two things. A sequel to Pokemon Let's Go that focuses on the Gold and Silver setting, or B, we get a remake of Gen 4 with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. And honestly, I'm pretty much for either of these. Gen 4 has my favorite set of starters, and there's a lot of things I love about that game. Actually, Gen 4 is what got me back into Pokemon after I grew up on Gen 1 and Gen 2. I just missed out on 3. It was like weird timing. And Gold and Silver is my absolute favorite specific version, especially Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so having that get the kind of Let's Go treatment is something I'm all for. I know Let's Go is not like a favorite for everyone who enjoys the regular Pokemon games, but I actually find them just to be a very fun, relaxing nostalgia trip. And so with how much fun I had with the first Let's Go, seeing that attempted again with Gold and Silver is something I am 1000% for. Now, for something that's gonna be a little weirder, it's not gonna sound weird at first, but it actually is kind of a weird thing, a new Mario Kart. The reason why that's weird is because traditionally Mario Kart doesn't get more than one game per platform, and the Switch has technically kind of broken that with Home Circuit, but that's not exactly the same thing as a regular Mario Kart game. But if there was a time to have a second full-blown Mario Kart game on a platform, the Switch is that time. Normally, Nintendo is able to alternate when they release Mario Kart games because they'll go between the home console and the portable. That's not an option now because they don't have both a home console and a portable. They just have the Switch, which is acting as both. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out close to the launch of the Switch and has been a huge success. It is still flat out the top-selling Nintendo Switch game, and so it really makes a lot of sense to me for them to dive in and just give us a second one now that we're basically 4 years later. And if I'm getting really dreamy, to help justify having a second Mario Kart game on the same platform, there's a couple ways they could make it stand apart. One, bring back the Double Dash style gameplay. Double Dash is my personal favorite Mario Kart. I love that gameplay mechanic. I just think it's a lot of fun, especially because in a game where you get to pick some of your favorite characters, what's better than picking one favorite character than being able to pick, well, 2 of them? And the second thing is if they lean harder into what Mario Kart 8 was doing in adding more full-blown crossover characters. As is, there's a couple characters that show up in Mario Kart from other franchises. Donkey Kong's always been a long stayover. We got Link and Squid Kids as DLC and as part of 8 Deluxe, and I really feel like they should just fully embrace the concept of a Mario Kart game basically being Super Smash Bros. They don't have to go as all out with doing things like getting Sonic, although that would be cool, but if we just had more additions like Samus, Captain Falcon, Pikachu, everyone else that you just love that are at least first-party Nintendo franchises, I could see that happening in a Mario Kart game. Last but not least, if you've seen any video from me where I talk about games that I want to see make a return on the Nintendo Switch, there's one that I have to talk about, but I have extra reason to be probably badly optimistic about its chances maybe happening. Bringing back Golden Sun. Now, the reason why I'm just a little more hopeful this might be actually a thing that's happening is that the developer that was responsible for the Golden Sun titles, Camelot, has not put out a game in quite some time. Now, part of the reason why they have not done a Golden Sun game, aside from maybe, lack of sales with the third game, is the fact that in the meantime, they've been very busy pumping out a ton of Mario sports games. And in the past, they were constantly making new titles because they were alternating between 3DS and Wii, which, like I said earlier, Nintendo only has one platform now, they don't have two. So instead of constantly releasing sports games, they released Mario Tennis Aces back in 2018, and it has been dead quiet since. Could we just be getting a bigger, more realized Mario Sports or Mario Golf title for the Switch? Absolutely, but considering we're now hitting almost 3 years since their last game, there's a part of me that's hoping maybe it's something a little different and a little bigger and grander in scheme with a new Golden Sun title. Whether that is a remake or a sequel or just something, I feel like that's actually kind of a possibility. Probably not actually, but I'm gonna keep believing it. Anyways, those are some games that I think have a shot at coming out this year, some being much more likely than others. Let me know down below in the comments what games you would like to see make a comeback in 2021, or what games I talked about today that you think might actually have a chance. Probably none of them. Till next time, guys, see you later.